Hey everyone, welcome back to our second day of week 2 of Wrapped in Grace, the birth story that changes everything. We've been talking this week about the birth announcements, and it was kind of a longer reading yesterday, but such an incredible story of grace, how God intervened for the nation of Israel. There was a wicked king named Ahaz reigning in Jerusalem, and even though he tried to shut God out of Israel's story, God pursued Israel with grace and came in with a birth announcement, a future hope that a virgin would be with child and would give birth to a son and would call his name Emmanuel, God with us. Those promises, those Old Testament promises, are starting to be fulfilled through Mary and Joseph's lives and the lives of the people we've been reading about. We're going to read today from Matthew's account of the birth story from Matthew chapter 1. As I was reading through it, I thought it seems like we've already read a lot of this, not all together, but in pieces throughout the last week or so. So a lot of it will sound familiar, but I love how God brings the pieces of his story together, and I think you'll recognize that as we read today. So from Matthew chapter 1, verses 18 to 25. This is how the birth of Jesus the Messiah came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. Because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. But after he had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took Mary home as his wife. But he did not consummate their marriage until she gave birth to a son, and he gave him the name Jesus. So cool. So cool that when Gabriel came to Joseph, he addressed Joseph as Joseph, son of David. That meant a lot. In first century Jewish culture, they were longing for restoration. They were living under the rule of the Roman Empire, many of them. The ones that were living in Israel, the Roman Empire was ruling the known world. And so scattered among the nations were Jewish people who knew their story and knew that someday from the line of David, a Messiah would come, somebody to rescue them, somebody to restore Israel. And that was their hope, that was their prayer. There are some prayers that were said every day in the Jewish home. There's several, but one group of prayers, 18 blessings, really 19, but when they were first put together, there were 18. The name of the blessings is called the Shemona Esri, which means 18. I think that's how you say it. I don't really speak Hebrew. But every day, these prayers would be said in every Jewish home. People would stand up to say these several blessings. And blessing 15 gives us a clue into what their prayer was and what they were thinking on a daily basis in these homes, and how their longing for a Messiah was really true. When we speak of Advent and longing for the arrival of the Messiah, this prayer gives us good insight into what the language was that expressed that desire. So I'm going to read it for you. It's from the Shemona Esri, and it's blessing number 15, about the kingdom of David. May the seed of David flourish speedily, and may you exult in your salvation. For in your salvation do we hope all the day. Blessed are you, Lord, who brings forth the horn of salvation. Every day at Joseph's house, they stood up and prayed, may the seed of David flourish speedily. And they knew they were from the line of David. that happened at Mary's house. They stood and prayed, may the seed of David flourish speedily. The prayer on the hearts of the people was that God would bring salvation and that he would be born through the seed of David. They knew their story. So when the angel says, Joseph, son of David, he's connecting the prayers and the longings and the prophecies to what is actually going to come to pass in their lifetime and for Joseph and his family. So here's a thought, a question for us to think through today. If you have time to journal about it a little bit, that would be great. One of the evidences that God's story is true is the way he keeps his promises. He remembers what he said thousands of years ago and makes good on every promise. How does that give you hope for today? So take some time to think through that. If you'd like to let me know how it's going or what your response is to that question, feel free to type to let me know. Type in your answers. If you're on Facebook, just make a comment below. If you're on the website, wherever you're listening, if you want to respond and join in the conversation, I invite you to do that. We'll be back tomorrow with day 3 with just a prayer for grace and how we can be grace extenders during this Advent season. So I will see you back here then.